As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries.
And the DJ scratch means we're live. Welcome to another episode of Burn and Return. How's everybody doing? That was too much. I don't know why I came out with the
song. Like is that the John Denver cover of our intro there? Or what
John
was
Perry,
that?
should I continue the Burn and Return song to start these episodes?
I would advise anybody who's
Hey, I want to get Perry. And I'm serious. I've seen him play on the videos. He's a pretty good musician.
He's
maybe
talented.
He can help us. I'm saying maybe you guys could combine forces. You know?
Do a duet? A Burn and Return
Yeah.
duet?
Yes. Absolutely.
John
I'll
Perry,
pay for
reach
that.
out to my people and we'll do a duet. It'll be a good time.
Record some beautiful music together.
That's right. We
Why not?
Yes, I mean,
shed fires and what you text me in the private chat and go Vols.
Purple drink.
My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor. Martin, alongside me, we have OSU Turf Man and the Green Doc himself. And we would like to thank y'all for coming on and joining us for at least the next hour or so, where we're going to be covering the latest news from the green industry and segments of the green industry. We kind of have some running themes here that we like to revisit and follow up on. And this week is no different, that we're going to continue to follow up on some of the things we've been talking about for, 3 months or the last month or the last few weeks, just so we can watch in real time how this plays out in reality. Right. And hopefully that as we watch this in the real world play out before our eyes, that when it appears in the future, we're all a little bit more educated on how we're going to handle those things. And so we'll be covering that in some of the headlines. And of course, this week, too, in continuation with all the positive feedback we've been getting from our newest segment, we have a fantastic Joe Knows Turf. And I really, really look forward to what we're going to be unpacking here, because as we all know, this is one of my absolute all-time favorite content creators. And so that is going to be an action-packed segment. And then we're gonna jump into some burns, and burns. We're gonna do some deep dives on some things we see out there that are a little bit chaotic and need to be further challenged, I guess. And then we're going to bring it all back to reality and make everybody feel good and happy and super excited to undergo their week with our returns. And I did throw a curveball in the returns because I'm a sadist or a masochist. I think I'm a masochist more than a sadist. Which one enjoys the punishment?
There's got to be a test on BuzzFeed or a quiz you can go. We'll do that after the show. We'll do that.
I think you need to take that quiz after the show, Matt.
I think before
you remember the stabby person that was around for a little while. You know who I'm talking about, and I'm not going to mention their names, but the one who was stabby. They continued to send that to me and my wife, asking us to take it. And so I did take that, and it just
you're just not hearing her because you're deaf. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
Listen,
all I'm going to recommend is
knocked on my door like the SWAT did. Really did. It scared the shit out of me because my office is literally right next to the front door. And if I'm doing this right here, and if I'm doing it, as you walk to get to my front door, you have to see me right here. Like there's no doubt. You cannot miss me. I'm right in front of the window. The window's open. You see me. So not only did this person walk by the window and see me, and then they attempted to knock down my door. I thought I was going to have to shoot somebody. Scared the shit out of me.
Oh no!
I almost called them a sea sucker, but I didn't, DeMay. I didn't do
I'm
that.
proud of you. Proud of you for having that level of
I
restraint
have been
and,
warned not to say that on air today. Perry, should we refrain from using the word? Never mind, Perry. I know we've talked about this off the air. I know where you're DeMay, how about you personally take us into the headlines?
Yeah, hey, listen. It is going to be a lot of the not the same old, but ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and listen to those headphones and headlines through our headphones. And let's go ahead and put on that Reynolds wrap right now.
Nothing to fear here. This is just the
That's the tinfoil hat going on as we begin to read.
My lead helmet is on.
Ray opted for lead today. And this is just a little follow-up on what's going on in Asia. Obviously, we were one of the early, in fact, at least in podcast form, I think we have been so far the only green industry related podcast that even touched this topic, probably because it was awfully controversial, because it highlighted the realities of what happens when you do these drastic extremist measures to implement these bizarre green policies, and with the specific green policy there was the bid to become the first forced organic crop producing nation, right? The entire nation was going to become a crop producing nation, and that would be Sri Lanka. And so we're revisiting here, and the headline is just an absolute doozy. And we talked about the riots that were undergoing, and they burned down the prime minister's house, and we're throwing all the politicians' trucks and stuff in water, and just general unrest because people are starving. And you take a group of good people and you subject them to death via starvation, and they no longer care to participate in societal norms, and that includes like throwing prime minister's trucks into waterways or burning down a prime minister's house. And I do not blame them at all, but this is why we should be thankful we live in America, because shoot on sight orders issued to quell Sri Lanka riots. Sri Lankan authorities issued shoot on sight orders on Tuesday to quell further unrest that has seen buildings and vehicles set ablaze a day after the island was rocked by the deadly violence and rioting. With thousands of security forces enforcing a curfew, the defense ministry said the troops have been ordered to shoot on sight anyone looting public property or causing harm to life. On Monday, government supporters attacked with sticks and clubs demonstrators in Colombo protesting peacefully for weeks over a dire economic crisis and demanding President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's resignation. Mobs then retaliated across the country late into the night, torching dozens of homes of ruling party politicians and trying to storm the prime minister's official residence in the capital. Police said Tuesday 8 people had died. Protests continued on Tuesday despite the curfew, with some people defying the shoot on sight order to torch buildings and vehicles. Luxury hotel said to belong to Rajapaksa's relative was set on fire on Tuesday evening in the edge of the Sindharaj rainforest. And the police shot to the air at 2 locations to disperse mobs trying to burn vehicles. And it goes on and on and on about the catastrophe that is Sri Lanka. And I just wanted to bring that up to point out that this is what happens when you do those types of things that lack a critical, I wouldn't even say critical thinking. This just lacks common sense, like forcing an entire nation to become an organic crop producing country. And then people begin starving to death, and you wonder why everybody's so upset. And then what's even more insane is hey, let's suppress the amount of rioting that takes place by just shooting on sight.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Matt.
This
is why I am an absolute advocate for the Second Amendment. Absolutely. And the Second Amendment is not for hunting. The Second Amendment is not even for defending your own property against intruders, trespassers, and attackers. The Second Amendment is actually the final defense against tyranny, because essentially Sri Lanka is a military dictatorship. That is Sri Lanka. And how do you have a military dictatorship? You have a disarmed populace. That's the most important thing. How else can you then tell people your fertilizers and your pesticides are going away? You are going to do it subsistence style. And do you know what is adding to the starvation and the chaos in Sri Lanka?
What's this?
Okay, Sri Lanka used to be an exporter of commodities such as tea, but under the organic only order, they cannot even export that. Therefore, the country has essentially defaulted on all loans and obligations. And in fact, I saw a headline somewhere that said that Sri Lanka only had like a
One
day's
day
of
petrol left.
gasoline left in the country. And that is what happens, for example, where, say, Matt, we shut down all of the corn and soybean farms in the United States and all of the cotton farms in the United States with an edict like that. What would happen if we did that? And all of the wheat fields, shut them down too.
I mean, DeMay, you're looking at the camera with, I'm not gonna lie, a lot more disgust than I typically see you have on your face.
Yeah. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the conversations that took place of how, in the agriculture piece, I think, was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, if you go back and look at the history of this country, it is an absolute just fucking mess. And to then take away, let's not just, the blackouts aside, right? You can live without power for a couple days if you really had to. But the food situation and the repression from the government, I mean, how did they think this was going to end? And so, here's my only hope is that in the vacuum that these situations create, right? How often do we see a better situation turn out in the end? I don't know the stats, but I'm going to say it's maybe 50-50. Maybe.
Actually, slim to none. Slim to none, because unfortunately, here's what I've come to realize. There are some localities where, for whatever reason, the people themselves, they are just so accustomed to repression and a centralized government that they don't know a different life at all. They don't know
Stockholm syndrome.
Like Stockholm syndrome, exactly. Because
that's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, because these people here, they have not known anything other than an oppressive government. They have not known anything other than absolute misery and poverty. And that's all they know. And the only thing till now that has kind of kept it reasonably tolerable is, as I said, at least Sri Lanka, up until the organic edict, at least they had some measure of sustenance and prosperity, because Sri Lankan tea and rubber, for example, is extremely valuable. You know, it's a commodity. It's an internationally traded commodity, right? And because you had that commodity, that then becomes currency. It's like, hey, we need gasoline. You got it. I mean, because guess where a lot of tea went or used to go back in the day? Russia. You know, you could trade tea for petroleum with Russia and China. And you shut that off. What do you have left? You just have a bunch of burning cars and burning buildings now. That's all you got left, Nat.
Exactly. You have a populace that is in full-fledged panic, and deservedly so, because they're starving, and it's a terrible thing. And I hope everybody listening understands that, you know, we crack jokes and stuff, and some of this stuff is really, really, really serious. And you know, we use DeMay's line in jest that, you know, people are going to die, and but you know, please understand
They are.
seriousness about this, that this is not
He's
just
not joking.
something that
He's not joking
that
about
is-
this now.
yeah, it's not
And
in
he's
a
not joking.
magazine somewhere in the distant wherever. Like, this is happening right now in this century, in our lifetime, where we've got children who you know, are coming up in the world, and there is a countries, multiple countries right now around the world, where people are literally starving to death. And meanwhile, you know, we're fortunate enough to be able to go to the Cheesecake Factory right now and eat, you know, to our fucking heart's content. And I'm just saying that to point out that everyone should take a moment to be. There's a good bread. There's a good bread. To be reflective about, you know, how thankful we should be, and one, for the opportunity we have, and two, to be appreciative of the system that we're in, because you know, we are not starving to death. Now, if we do start starving to death, then, you know, I hope everybody would join me in setting fires and throwing politicians' cars and waters, because I'll be right there at the front line doing it, and I will gladly do so, and they'll have to kill me, and I'll be fine with that. But until then, you know, we can be reflective of what's going on in the world. Now, to add a little bit more, not necessarily good news, but I would say that this isn't necessarily bad news. Elevated fertilizer prices remain. UN is in talk to restore Ukrainian grain exports, and so basically what they're saying is that fertilizer prices are still high. It's not in this parabolic price increase week over week that we were seeing beforehand. You know, some things are touching new highs, right? You know, MAP is still and DAP are still floating around there at all-time highs. Anhydrous ammonia is still, you know, but anhydrous ammonia is still pushing at all-time highs. Urea seems to have stabilized. It seems like 1,000 a ton for the time being is going to be the new normal. UAN 28 and UAN 32. This looks like to be, at least for right now, the new normal for what we can expect from that. And I, you know, it's as crazy as it is, this may be the new potash price we see too, is, you know, going to be somewhere around 900 a ton. So it has been here around this for quite a while now, for at least a month or two, and relatively stable around these prices, which is and it's crazy to think about that, you know, this time 2 years ago, I was bringing in red potash by the truckload retail at $268 a ton. And now it's at $886.50 a ton retail. That is bonkers, absolutely bonkers. But again, this is realistically probably is the new normal now. And you know, a little bit here with Ukrainian open up grain exports. they're in talks to open up grain exports. And again, shout out to our boy Standard Grain. Thank you, DeMay, for bringing this guy into my life, because it's someone I watch every morning. That is like my new routine. When I take a shower in the morning, I turn on Standard Grain and listen to what he's got to say. And he was talking about this, and he said, really, the deal that they're trying to put together to open up Ukrainian grain exports is a win for Ukraine, and not there's not really anything that they're giving up to make Russia more apt to participate in this. So right now, it's a good theoretical thing on paper, and the likelihood of it evolving beyond just a paper thing is relatively low right now. So, it is what it is. They're in talks, great, but it doesn't look like the deals are even worth really pursuing. Another thing that we talked about last week, and and the week before, is this whole thing with Lake George Park Commission and over using a selective herbicide to control invasive species up in Vermont. So originally, they were considering doing this because they have a bad problem with Eurasian milfoil, which is incredible to begin with, because whoever has a problem with Eurasian milfoil is clearly racist or something, because there's nothing wrong with that. Should I bleep that? I did not. I probably shouldn't have said that, should I? Was it okay? What? Was it too much? I don't know. I should probably
Eurasian milfoil?
Yeah. I said if you got a problem with it, that's racist. I mean, everybody loves Eurasian milfs. Oil. It's good, right?
Oh,
unless it's in your pond.
Unless it's in your pond. So they sued to block this from happening, and now the judge has stepped in and is like, nope, we're putting a stop to this, and we're so now it's totally up to the courts, and I can't wait to see what gets put up in front of here to it's going to be the number one. Who on the court is going to be making the decision? Are they going to bring in a jury to make this decision? Is it going to be up to the judge to make the decision? I don't know. I don't know how the courts work. And maybe Jesse can give us some inside information on here. It would be great. But it's, again, embarrassing. DeMay, I was really getting hot and heavy last week saying this lady is an absolute moron, the one who started this. And I want to follow up this week and just, I maybe want to dial it back a little bit compared to last week and just say that she's a fucking moron. This is the weirdest hill to die on. I do not understand, and maybe it's just poor reporting, and I deserve the blame here. Maybe it's poor reporting, but I cannot figure out what she thinks the appropriate alternative action plan is. Because in one instance, you've got dying, dead waterways due to oxygen depletion, due to the Eurasian milfoil going dormant. And then on the other hand is that you sacrifice a bit of the good to get rid of the bad, so the good has the opportunity to proliferate, and you don't have dying waterways. To me, unless there's some sort of action plan here that looks really good for allowing the Eurasian milfoil to continue to proliferate and starve waterways that has not been presented to me yet, then this is all for farce, and it's nothing more than just a circle jerk of being like, look how much I care. Look how much I care. You don't care enough. I'm the one who cares because I don't use the bad word chemical.
Matt, it seems that the anti-pesticide movement is all about virtue signaling, okay? Their position is that because I don't use herbicides, I am superior. And again, I see this shit in my state all the time, okay? I am up to my eyeballs in invasive species, and there's nothing done about them because oh, no, 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 no. You can't do that. And for Christ's sake, I am not talking about releasing arsenic in the environment. No, I'm talking about using EPA approved, and in fact, a lot of the herbicides now used for invasive species controlled, do you know that they have the EPA designation of reduced risk, Matt?
Yeah. And
Did
I
you
know
know
that's
that?
that's an important thing too to take a look at, is that now that
Yeah, because
I do understand that some pressure forces the evolution of these things, right? And I get that, and we have to be adaptive of it and evolve and all that fun stuff as well. And now we've got the designation of reduced risk. And DeMay actually has probably taught me more about reduced risk than anybody has, because I know that's something he has to navigate in frequently when you have people using sports fields.
Well, I do it too voluntarily, because oftentimes, Matt, I'm making applications in, number one, residential areas, or number two, near bodies of water or waterways. Okay, I am very thoughtful, of things like that. So I am familiar with the reduced risk designation, and some of the reduced risk chemistry is actually rather good. Like, for example, flumioxazin, reduced risk; triclopyr, reduced risk; aminopyrrolid, reduced risk. And you know what? Those happen to be bang up outstanding herbicides for invasive species control. Figure that out.
DeMay, you just sent a link here, and this is something I'm going to watch. He has found the Lake George Park Commission meeting. This is going to be the one from April where this kind of whole thing kicked off, and that means they probably have another one coming up soon too. And I look forward to checking this out, because surely, to goodness, she's going to have an action plan here, right?
Yeah. Okay. What does the lady intend to do about the Eurasian milfoil infestation? Because Matt, not too long ago, I was witness here to what I'm going to call an epic clusterfuck regarding invasive species in a body of water. Can you imagine tropical salvinia blanketing an entire lake?
I'm going to steal Boy Meets Lawn here, that this is when we're tackling the issue of invasives, we're not dropping tons of chicken shit into the lake behind the house like Lake House Lawn Care did. This is an actual targeted aquatic herbicide done so to solve a major problem that's creating that's leading to real consequences in waterways, right?
Yeah, it basically, if you do not control that aquatic weed, you will have ecological disaster. And okay, here's the most ridiculous clusterfuck thing I've ever seen. Imagine mechanically harvesting several tons of vegetation from a lake.
But you're not okay. Yeah, you go in, you harvest several tons of vegetation from a lake. That's fine, but it's gonna grow back.
Yeah, it's gonna grow back, because I'm imagining that all you needed to do and say bye-bye to salvinia, which also has this very cute name. They call it water lettuce. Okay, they call it water lilies. All you'd have to do is just a few ounces per acre of flumioxazin, and water lettuce bye-bye, and not to grow back either.
DeMay, you've been playing a doctor in the background here, putting together all kinds of snippets and stuff. Talk to us a little bit about what you unpacked here, because this is exactly why I am being so mean to this lady.
So the chemistry that they're using, right, is a very new chemistry that basically is an auxin mimic, right? So just like
Like 2,4-D.
any of our, like 2,4-D.
Actually, I know that highly purified formulations of triclopyr are relatively benign in an aquatic environment. Certain highly purified amine formulations of triclopyr, they are not considered, waterway pollutants or aquatic hazards. And in that context, triclopyr is fairly selective in that it will target the broadleaf vegetation in a waterway and leave everything else alone. Algae, plankton, etc. is spared. Grasses that happen to be growing on the water's edge also spared. So I wouldn't have a horrible, fit about somebody applying aquatic label triclopyr, for example, to weeds growing in a lake. Not really.
Yeah, but I mean, we're looking here. We're talking about 100 milligrams per liter. I mean, that's a pretty. So it is practically non-toxic to fish on an acute basis. Okay. 100. So if we're talking about 100 milligrams per liter, that's a pretty hefty rate.
That's a lot. You know what, Matt? Most of these auxin type herbicides in water, imagine a couple parts per million being enough to do the job.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need a lot. I mean, if you do enough to make the fish or the aquatic invertebrates sick, you've grossly overdosed up the product. You've grossly overdosed, and it's like, oh man, I think you set your spreader on, what is that? F for fired.
All right, DeMay has put up has found a fact sheet here for us. Walk us through what we're looking at here.
So just in looking at this particular AI or active ingredient, this is meant to treat bodies of water that are very sensitive, right? Whether it be for drinking water, for fish, for vertebrates like ducks, stuff like that, waterfowl. And so it's very, very safe in that sense. And so you're looking through here a couple of things. So it talks about one, it's a highly effective tool for Eurasian water milfoil. So there's that. Other thing too is that there are no restrictions on swimming, eating fish from treated water bodies, or using water for drinking water. So what they found is that this also says, this is important for us and something you got to be careful of if you do apply aquatic pesticides. This is a mini LCS turf, but there is no restriction for irrigation of turf with this water.
So if you're treating a pond that you also use for irrigation, you're safe.
Some people have made that mistake before.
Okay, and Matt, you see this fluoroperoxyphen benzyl chemistry?
Yes.
That is in that's a similar moiety to haloxyphen.
Yeah, exactly.
Rinse core technology. So This is the new generation of highly pure synthetic auxin type herbicides. This is the new generation because naturally, Matt, did you know what used to be used for aquatic weed control in the past?
Yeah, I mean, there's everything we use in lawns. I have seen with an aquatic label on it before. So all the 2,4-Ds and everything else. So
yeah, exactly. In the day, there was actually aquatic label 2,4-D, and my understanding is that you may still apply 2,4-D amine as an aquatic herbicide. You can still do it.
don't drink the pond water that's been treated with.
Well, don't touch the pond water that's been treated either.
All right, so it was a couple of other quick points here from the article. It has a half-life about 1 to 6 days. The clearer the water, it's broken down by light, so photodegradation. So the clearer the lake is, right? It's probably another reason to not dredge it. Yep. Who knows what's on the bottom of the lake, right? That you're dredging up.
Mm-hmm.
That's another whole issue in and of itself.
Channel worms.
Toxicity tests conducted with rainbow trout, fathead minnow, water fleas, amphipod snails indicate that it is not toxic to these species. EPA included there is no risk for non-target wildlife and is considered practically non-toxic to bees, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and mammals. Does also does not accumulate or bioaccumulate in fish or fresh water due to the rapid metabolism and the chemical depuration. So, human health. Last one here. Identified no risk or concern to human health since there are no adverse acute or chronic effects, including a lack of carcinogenicity or mutagenicity, were observed in submitted toxicological studies. So this sounds like, wrapping this up here, the safest thing that they can possibly use to manage the situation that they're in. And you know what? Here's my thing, and I don't know. I'm going to have to do a deep dive. This is going to be on our radar. Gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and call it. This has just officially entered our shit list. It's on the list now. We're going to be monitoring. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't imagine. Let's see here. What is this? This is Lake St. George in New York.
Lake George. But
George.
it's on the line with Vermont. This particular waterway here. I think it separates two areas, and it's the people of Vermont that are losing their minds over this.
But it's just two areas of this lake, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes.
Like two little bays.
Yeah, like a 7-acre area, and then one maybe a little bit bigger, like 9 acres or something like that.
Well, the thing is that would these people prefer that the Eurasian milfoil then spreads until the entire lake is choked with this stuff? I mean, what?
I see a lot of docks and houses on this fucking lake. I'm sorry, but now I'm out. Fuck that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've run out of time on the headlines, but this is the point here is that listen, when we get a hard on for you, rest in peace, because we will not be resting. We will be digging into you with every available inch that we have. There was one more thing that we were going to cover in the headlines, and that France, and they're facing record heat right now, and their wheat is losing quality day by day, and that's just going to put even greater pressure on the wheat market, which is already in just an absolute catastrophe because of everything that's going on in Ukraine and Russia, and then other areas have been struggling, and so it's another compounding issue. So if you sold all your wheat contracts so far, don't hang on to them a little bit longer until harvest data comes in from here, and then sell it, because I'm sure the harvest data from France is going to be terrible. Let's go. Go ahead. No. You damn it, DeMay, do it.
I was going to say, as I saw a quick fact this past week, Ukraine wheat exports down 64% from a year ago.
Ouch. 1, 2, 3, 64. That's a big number. That's like yeah,
Big
that's a
dip,
lot.
and that, especially when it's it was a pretty high number to begin with. Like, so 64% of a lot is still a lot. So,
That's
anyway.
Okay, guys, should I
like
be
an ACT problem.
freaked out because right now my cheap dinner is fettuccine alfredo. That's my cheap dinner.
Ray, you should be freaked out, and it's not just because of the wheat situation. It's because of what we're going to be covering on Joe Knows Turf. Joe Knows Turf. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm gonna give you a bunch of accurate turf facts today because Joe knows turf. With the end of the song, that means it's let's check out what DeMay has planned for us this week on Joe Knows Turf.
Soil probe. The bigger, the thicker the screwdriver, no pun intended, the better off you're going to be with telling if you have too much or too little soil. You're just going to use a medium push into the soil to see how deep it goes, and you're going to measure and mark.
Now listen, I the one thing that caught me off guard there was how much soil we have. I don't know if that means, like, remember the swimming pool, and if you fill it up with soil and the water and there's less soil in it. I don't know who that was from or what that was about, but I just remember that at some point was a Joe Knows Turf exercise. Okay, go ahead.
Where it organically stops. Now, if you're in a situation like we are here on this lawn where it is bone dry, my suggestion is to start watering daily for the next 5 to 6 days. We want to try to get 6 inches of water penetrating into the soil. We want to make sure that the water isn't just sliding off the top. So you want to do smaller increments of 10 to 15 minutes per cycle, in the equivalent of about 45 minutes per day on average. So in this instance, where it is all brown, I would take it one step further. I would use a biostimulant like Essentials Plus 101 to help bring it out of its funk, as well as a fertilizer service. Now, in regards to the fertilizer, as long as you're using a quicker release or somewhere around the bag number between 18 and 32, you're going to be just fine at the label rates.
Holy
reason number 2
smokes.
is there isn't a sufficient amount.
Matt, would you recommend, Matt, we'll discuss the content in a minute. I just want to know, would you recommend for the fertilizer service, would you recommend hand service, or would you like to see that motorized like on a permagrain? Maybe with a couple of D batteries. I don't know. Play it.
Of nitrogen in the
Mom
soil.
and Dad are making margaritas again.
A little bit harder to tackle or harder to recognize because of the fact that it takes a soil
Why
test to be sure.
Why is there a
Now,
220 volt plug in the bedroom?
personally love using a soil test because it tells us exactly what is happening, and I use a product called My Soil to keep it simple. Now, another sure test sign is dog urine spots are greener, darker, richer than the rest of the lawn. Now, my lawn is a fantastic proving ground for this theory because my dog just hangs out in the backyard and he likes to pee in the same spot. Now, this is where Royce is doing his business, and you can see it's almost 3 inches higher over the course of a couple of weeks than the rest of the lawn. Now, this is just because the urine is just like fertilizer. It's acidic. It pulls the pH down into the growing medium of the grass, causes it to grow. Sure tell sign. This is lack of nitrogen. Now, the good news is if you can recognize this.
Wait.
Hang
The
on.
mental gymnastics that took place right there was so extraordinary. Why? Why do we send athletes to the Olympics when we've got this kind of mental gymnastics here being bred and fostered in the United States. Simone Biles, you are a real treat to watch, but you don't have shit on my boy here that just pulled out a double backhand spring, triple trifecta flip and whatever, and nailed it, sweetheart. Absolutely nailed it from top to bottom, to pH to fertilizer. That was a win in however you measure wins. That was spectacular.
Listen to that again real quick. Let's go back real quick.
Into the growing medium of the grass causes it to grow. Sure tell sign. This is lack of nitrogen. Now the good news is if you can
you Ray?
Wait.
Can you
go back a little bit further where he creates this scenario of pH manipulation and acidic urine, and that is how we've unpacked a nitrogen deficiency.
Greener, darker, richer than the rest of the lawn. Now my lawn is a fantastic proving ground for this theory because my dog just hangs out in the backyard and he likes to pee in the same spot. Now this is where Royce is doing his business, and you can see it's almost 3 inches higher over the course of a couple of weeks than the rest of the lawn. Now this is just because the urine is just like fertilizer. It's acidic. It pulls the pH down into the growing medium of the grass, causes
Just
it
like
to grow.
fertilizer,
Sure tell
and it's
sign.
acidic. Bullshit. Total, absolute bullshit, because urine typically contains approximately 1% urea. And
So it is like a fertilizer, but
it is like a fertilizer, but then that has got abso-freaking-lutely nothing to do with the pH of the urine, because urine pH in healthy mammals is typically between 6 and 7. It is not acidic, because if it were acidic, it would be burning old Royce's dick on its way out. Okay,
Ray, is that hey? How else do you think the rocket becomes red, Ray? Just saying. All right, let's play this. Let's play it real quick.
This is lack of nitrogen. Now the good news is if you can recognize this, you're one step away from greatness, and that's just putting down a fertilizer. Now, putting down a fertilizer at about 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet, or at the recommended label rates, is best practice in this instant. Give it 2 to 3 weeks after proper watering. If your lawn isn't thick, lush, and full, you're going to want to do it again at the 4-week mark, because it means you're low in nitrogen. Now, my situation where I have a severe lack of nitrogen, I'm not as concerned, to be honest with you, because having a lack of nitrogen doesn't mean that I'm not going to have good color. It just means the grass isn't going to grow.
For those of you listening in podcast format, there is not a severe lack of nitrogen. The turf is green. It looks healthy. It's fine. Royce is just taking a lot of pisses on it. That's it. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, his poor dog got to go. I mean, and got nothing to do with it.
It doesn't burn either.
And by the way, if somebody were to keep on blasting a cool season lawn going into summer with 3/4 to 1 pound of nitrogen per month going through the hot season, I'm going to place bets on how well that lawn does, because you're basically making the grass grow, or trying to make the grass grow at a time when it naturally doesn't want to grow, because the grass is trying to go dormant and conserve resources during the heat. This is like me not sleeping. Yeah, this is like me not sleeping for an entire week and instead staying awake on French roast. Not good.
This is taking the Adderall away for that all-nighter and instead saying, hey, you know what? We're going to fill you up with 6 inches of booze, right? 1 inch a day for the next 6 days. And then we need you to clear the mirror with all this cocaine right here, and let's see how it goes.
Or better yet, I just go,
Unreal.
hey Sheila, I want to borrow the glass pipe.
Oh boy. Now wait, listen. Last week, if you tuned in, there was an article about using urine as a fertilizer, and I've got to ask, because we do have sort of on the panel, we have a liquid fertilizer expert in Perry, and Perry, do you think that instead of human urine that we should be using dog urine to fertilize?
I would advise anybody who's thinking of doing this not to.
See, I knew that he would say that because I think he does love dogs, and I'm with him. That would be cruel to animals. We shouldn't do that. Let's see if anything else that Ginja has to tell us here real quick.
As much. So if you don't want the grass growing a ton, you don't need a ton of nitrogen. Simple as that. Now on the flip side, if your lawn is in a funk and you have lack of nitrogen, you need nitrogen to give it that boost to kick it out of a funk. Now the third reason why your lawn may or may not be growing properly may be due to a lawn fungus. Now causation is commonly overwatering. So getting your soil probe out and seeing if you've got too much water in the lawn is the best course of action. Now, the second thing you're going to want to do is to peel the grass open to check the individual blades. Now this lawn is a great example. With Kentucky bluegrass, it's really common if you overwater, you're going to get some melting out fungus. What I'm trying to show you is it just starts to melt out. It
if you
looks
water
like a popsicle. The tips are
every
yellow.
day, but if you water every day, you're going to probably be overwatering. I mean, he just contradicted himself.
the whole video contradicted himself. So anyway, listen, Ginja, if you watch this, if you take it personal, don't. Just get better, dude, and find out how to not get on Joe Knows Turf. Go ahead and play that outro for us. Oh, go ahead.
I want to say that it's a common thing. If anybody is out there and is looking for guidance, and especially if you're a business owner, and I'm sure he has a business that he does it for a living and stuff too. I can wholeheartedly recommend you never take any advice or any of the recommendations put forth by him. And if you want another example of case in point why that should continue to be at the forefront of what you consider as how to not be while you're out in the field, it would be the time that he visited Hawaii to diagnose Bermuda grass that had been recently treated with an herbicide to eliminate sedge, probably sulfentrazone, and it had very clear dying sedges in it and discoloration of the Bermuda due to the use of a PPOI. And he diagnosed it as disease, and therefore a fungicide was needed. And it was just a horrifically embarrassing thing to look at because it was so very clear. There was another video where he had Bermuda in the yard and he couldn't figure out what weed it was. And then there was another one where he was licking glyphosate off his finger. So again, if you're looking for some sort of mentor or spirit animal in this space that you can collect good information from, I can promise you, if you hang around here long enough, it's just going to turn you into an asshole, not necessarily anything else other than that. But I can say wholeheartedly, please, Lord, avoid that at all cost. Great segment. I guess we'll hit the outro now.
Just to be clear, there never was an outro with that.
Oh, well, sorry.
Wow,
it's good to hear it again.
We're just going to do a repeat of the intro.
Joe Knows Turf.
That was so hard for me not to say the word.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm gonna give you a bunch.
I was trying so hard to keep
watched
myself together.
I watched intently, and I've studied your facial expressions like an FBI profiler. And there were at least 3 instances that I saw that I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna do it. I was just waiting for it.
It's so bad. I've yet. I do like his diagnostics where he walks through and he does the tug test and he checks more, whatever. I like the premise, the concept of his testing protocol. The execution of his testing protocol is some of the most grotesque content on YouTube lawn care that is out there. It's horrific time and time again. And then, case in point, we really double down on it today with the mental aptitude of acidic urine to draw in additional nitrogen into the plant to make it 3 inches taller was just unbelievable. The show this week is brought to you by Lawn Supply Company. I'm so embarrassed from the Joe Knows Turf segment. Go to RyanNorLawnCare.com and check out the Lawn Supply Company stuff. Green RSP is back in stock. Well, will be tomorrow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it'll be back tomorrow. It's been flying. It's just been so difficult to keep up with because it's very difficult to package, if you can imagine. And it's been absolutely flying. And it's interesting. We've been playing with a lot on the golf courses and getting really good feedback about that. Most recently, we added ammonium sulfate to the line too in a soluble form, very, very fine material. And that was as cheap as we could do it. We're a small company, and Ryan's clearly a small company too. And there's not a lot of margin in there. So, but it's ammonium sulfate, it's 20 pounds, and it's delivered right to your door. And if you want to make spoon feed applications of ammonium sulfate, I'm not really doing a good job of selling Lawn Supply Company right now, and it's because
allow me to.
Okay.
Real quick.
Okay.
Nowhere else in America right now can you get ammonium sulfate, ship to your door, pick it up in your underwear, and then, without ever putting on pants, go out and apply it in your underwear too. LawnSupplyCompany.com. Only place that you can do that. Ammonium sulfate in your underwear to your lawn, and you don't even have to piss on it because the ammonium sulfate does it for you.
What's interesting about this is ammonium sulfate actually is acidic, and ammonium sulfate is not found in urine, as a matter of fact.
No, you know what it is?
Take mix. Yay!
Urea.
Wait. What's the
creatinine? That is what's actually found in urine, and those nitrogen-bearing materials in water are mostly neutral. They are neutral. On the other hand, ammonium sulfate dissolved in water will produce a pH of 5.5. It will. So, so my question is okay, Ginja, what are you doing such that Royce there is peeing out ammonium sulfate? What are you doing to your doggy? I mean, ASPCA wants to know.
I just wanted to know what the solubility point of ammonium sulfate in urine is. We should test that. That sounds like a good science fair project. I can figure out.
That would be.
I can see the 3-panel cardboard thing, and our hypothesis is I can mix enough ammonium sulfate into my own piss to make a pretty good fertilizer, And then we can talk about all the different things that you could drink to make better piss. Is it you're drinking Gatorade? Do you maybe have some papaya juice? Something a little fancier,
cranberry juice,
or is it just a whole bunch of draft beer from Hooters and it's that big, disgusting yellow foamy beer piss the next morning? How does that work? I don't know. We'll find out.
Speaking of the Hooters draft next day feeling,
you got a story?
Let's cover this week's burns.
Oh yeah, that does.
Because I know that's kind of lingering. Yeah, it's almost
it
like,
is.
Is my urine carbonated? That feels really strange on the way out.
It's acidic. It's acidic, Matt.
just
it's acidic.
Lean up against the wall, take the weight off your legs, and let it fly, baby.
Close your eyes and just pretend the events of last night never occurred.
And then your significant other comes in. Why is there piss all over the wall?
because I love you, honey. That's why.
I thought you
didn't
liked
do
it like that.
anything
Yikes.
even remotely bizarre the night before. Speaking of remotely bizarre, I saw this story earlier today, and I was glad it made it into the show notes because this is really interesting. We were talking last week on Jono's Turf about someone who applied a 10x label rate because they refused to consult the label. They remembered a 5 and opted to apply, something along the lines of 5 ounces per 1,000 square feet or 5 ounces per acre of metsulfuron methyl. And we talked about what happened if you do that as a lawn care operator or whatever, and then you walk into a world of hurt, right? Well, turns out there was an LCO that had this happen. What's the deal with dead lawns across Sioux Falls? Company plans to fix mistake soon, owner says. So there is a company here, and I've never ever name a company this, by the way. It is Cut and Kill Lawn Care with K's. And they had a little accident with how they mixed up a tank. And in all likelihood,
no. Wasn't just one tank. This went on for like over 2 weeks.
Yeah. 302 lawns were treated. So this is multiple. This is bad. And if I had to guess, and by the way, if there's anything that's taught me right here, the coverage is terrible. I know it said the person who did this, was a 25-year veteran. They should have a better
Surprise, motherfucker.
A better spraying pattern than what's demonstrated here. But he'll be back. If I had to guess, what happened is there was a container that was being used to hold glyphosate that was not labeled as glyphosate, and it got picked up by someone and mixed into a batch tank that went into all the technicians' trucks to go out and make applications. And when that happens, this is the result.
Actually, I have an alternate theory, Matt, that's
Okay,
close
what
to
is
the
yours,
glyphosate one. What would happen if somebody mistook Quick Pro soluble granules for prodiamine granules?
Oh, that's a good point.
No, what would happen? Because my understanding is that right now would probably be spring pre-emergent time, right? And if somebody saw a jug of yellow granules, they would think, man, this goes in, pound per acre equivalent, and that would be enough to smoke stuff. Because Quick Pro is actually pretty nasty. But anyway, this is why, Matt, do you know why I obsessively read a label before I pour anything into a sprayer?
So this mistake doesn't happen.
Yeah, because a long time ago in the 1990s, I did something like that to myself.
Sure.
No, you know what I did? Because I didn't closely read the label, I grabbed a bottle of Ornamec instead of a bottle of Super Trimec.
Yep.
And
that definitely
you know what?
lit some things up.
No, the only thing that saved me is I was most of the way done spraying the lawn, right? And I was wondering, why don't I have that weird stench of 2,4-D and dicamba from the Super Trimec, and instead I have that rotten mothball smell that fluazafop normally has.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I thought, oh, shit. You ever saw me start turning on irrigation fast? And I was trying to water that stuff off of the grass before it actually absorbed and started killing everything. And with Flazafop, you don't have a lot of time because theoretically an effective amount is absorbed into the grass within an hour. And I did this to a half-acre turf area.
It happens. It happens to everybody, and this is why the people that choose to pick up a few lawns on the side or whatever, and then it gets a little bigger. Just get your insurance. If you have to have a bond, get a bond, because this guy's insurance is going to bail him out here. But and it has a quote in here where a guy said he got a quote on tilling up his 10,000 square foot yard and sodding it. It was going to be between $6,000 and $7,000. And that didn't include the cost of water to water it in. Now, is that quote? Does it need to be tilled? No, it does not need to be tilled. And so I'm sure this will be shaken out. But if you could imagine 302 lawns, and I don't know how many acres that's going to be. We'll say they're each 5,000 square feet. 5,000 square feet times 302 lawns. That's 1.5 million square feet.
35 acres.
Yeah, that's a big number. And if you math that out, that's going to be a real hefty price tag.
Matt, Ray, can I ask you to go back to the burns and put your tinfoil hats back on?
Yes.
Listen. We're not journalists, so we don't have to vet things the same way journalists do. But in reading some of the things that were coming out, like in the comment section, apparently they also, I'm not sure if they just install it or if they also grow it, but they also have operation.
Wait. You cut out because the NSA clipped whatever you were saying there. Repeat it to me.
They also at least install and possibly grow sod. So the thought, there's the conspiracy theory podcasts are out there, and this isn't one of them. We're not even close. But
actually,
that
Ryan,
what
is okay. Here's what I frequently run up against. My typical competition here are also these rather large companies with a pretty substantial corporate structure. And they are also in the business of installing lawns and landscapes. And I had a conversation with a prospective customer last month about how, because these big companies are in the business of installing lawns and landscapes and tearing out lawns and landscapes that have failed, their maintenance is such that the lawn and landscape declines in a few years, and there is no incentive for them to do better. I frequently joke about the bulldozer, right? I joke about that all the time on this show. However, should I ever do anything such that a yard has to be scraped out with a bulldozer because I fucked up, that is my ass. Okay, that's my ass. So
let me paint this picture for you, Ray. Okay, we're watching Law and Order, which, by the way, one of my favorite all-time shows. I could watch Law and Order.
You're damn right. You damn
all day
right.
long. And if you're not a Jack McCoy fan as the best DA on that show, then
you're a piece of shit.
Get out of here. Just get out of here.
Get out. Yeah, leave.
If you want to go back and like Ben Stone or any of those other guys, fine. That's for you. Jack McCoy, best DA ever. All right. So, Ray, the sod is the wife. and these customers' lawns are the husband, and the wife takes out $1 million insurance policy against those lawns just in case something bad happens. Fortunate accident, maybe the brakes go out on the car, who knows, or maybe some lawn jockey goes out there and smokes him with
some
steel
quick
green
pro or
bat.
something. Yeah, with some quick pro, and I'm also
Well-
familiar with this story because I'm fond of these forensic mystery documentaries on the Discovery Channel. I'm also familiar with multi-million-dollar insurance policy on the husband. And why is there Prestone in the iced tea? Or
Is that pre-mixed or no? Okay.
doesn't matter. Or why is there thallium nitrate in the Coca-Cola? Just saying, because you bring up something very important, because
Ray, deep knowledge of poisons and bombs.
yeah, because here's the thing, is that now, for a company that installs sod, how shall I say, what a fortuitous turn of events, because, what would happen if nobody wanted to buy their frickin' sod, right? And they're just sitting on fields and fields of this stuff, and nobody wants to buy it. And it's like, bloody hell, we gotta move this stuff. We gotta move this material. And so, hey, most convenient thing I can think of is, what if you applied a pound per acre of Quick Pro rather than a pound per acre of Prodiamine WDG? I'm just asking for a friend.
Now listen, Mission Impossible 7 is slated to come out next year. But what if Mission Impossible 8 in 2025 is Mission Impossible: The Ultimate Burn and Return?
John, I got a real serious question here. If we wanted to jumpstart a side farm business, you think we should spike some 2,4-D with Quick Pro?
I would advise anybody who's thinking of doing this not to.
I would agree with you there. I think you're dead nuts on the money, cowboy. DeMay, can we put this one on the list too? Can we follow this? Can we get some inside baseball? I don't know where Sioux Falls is. Is that Wisconsin or somewhere up there in the
South Dakota?
South Dakota. Well, I know we've got some friends in North Dakota. I don't know if we do in South Dakota. It tells you how geographically inclined there. I have no idea where Sioux Falls is, by the way. I thought it was in Wisconsin. It's not. It's in South Dakota.
Well, when I first saw this headline,
I'm trash.
I thought that another mistake would be made that involved air-ground herbicides. Okay? I thought that would be another possible mistake made, because, around oil field equipment, they normally require no vegetation. Around oil pipelines, they require no vegetation. So, Matt, what would happen if somebody accidentally, on purpose, put Sahara into the batch tank?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be dealing with what we're dealing with here. Can we take?
I want to
getting crazy.
Yeah, I just want to confirm the details. But if it was really like as long as they said it was, how do you not know that you're running out of inventory of something that you shouldn't be running out of inventory of? Here's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is this: if you are an operator and if you have more than yourself as an employee, the oversight that you need to have and the trust that you need to have are two different things, right? You can trust somebody to a fault, but you have to watch over what they're doing. You have to watch over what they're doing. So
100%.
Well, you see,
trust but verify. The Matt Martin slogan,
my
tattooed on his chest.
Yeah, my question is with a lot of these supposedly large companies, though, or companies that treat a substantial number of lawns, they basically order up what they need for the spring, round, right? And it's just there, and the Mtech is supposed to just take from that and use it. But what if that Mtech didn't read before he poured whatever it is into the batch tank, right? Because didn't this happen at a university where somebody did Roundup instead of three-way?
Yeah, that was in Ohio.
Right? Didn't somebody instead of applying or adding three-way to the tank, they put in glyphosate? And again, that goes back to how easy it was for me to grab that bottle of Ornamec, right? And you know what, Matt? Ornamec and Super Trimec look the same in the measuring cup.
Listen, this is actually a pretty common occurrence, and I'll give you another example. And I'm not going to say the company, but there was someone who was mixing a tree shrub tank and thought they were pouring in propiconazole and was actually pouring in MSMA into the tree shrub tank, and then made a day's worth of applications. And if you could imagine what that looked like, and everything that went into it, and luckily not as systemic of an issue as glyphosate would be, right? But definitely a good defoliant in the tree shrub world. It's not out. Yeah, it's not out of the. It's not. This happens, and you know why it happened? It was because it was in a container that did not meet appropriate rules and regulations, right? That if it's not in the original container, you've got to have it marked and labeled and all that fun stuff. And and this wasn't. It was being operated on by memory. And someone with, multiple decades of experience picked it up, opened it, smelled it, looked at it, called it good, measured it out, poured it in the tank, and went and, made $1,000 worth of applications that day, and had to install $60,000 worth of landscaping plants, over the course of the next month or so. So it happens.
And Matt, you know what saves me a lot of times?
Tell me.
My sense of smell.
Yeah.
That's what saves me, because what made me stop what I was doing was that one lawn where instead of me smelling 2,4-D and dicamba, I smelled that fluazethop smell, and I thought, no, this is wrong.
Think about it, Ray, that, it's pretty common in the industry that the guy who's been doing this for 20 years is mixing a tank, and he's got a cigarette dangling from his lips while he's mixing his tank. And smell is completely out of the question, because, you've probably had that same cigarette dangling from your lips for the last 20 years that you did when you made that application. And so you don't pick up on those things. And unfortunately, this is what happens. Gentlemen, let's try to bring some grace back into this and talk about this week's returns. La 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 la.
I'm back.
The first one here is a little write-up called "The Future of Farming in California," and I actually do recommend everybody go and read this. And unfortunately, I put it in as a return. There's nothing redeeming about this. This is actually a very, very sad thing to read about the state of the union of agriculture in California right now, and it is in major jeopardy. There's a big issue with water and the drought that's going on there. There's a big issue of labor. There's a big issue of age that is going on with it. And the crazy thing though is that the demand for the crop production that takes place there is as high as it's ever been, and will continue to grow. Yet the region will not be able to continue to produce unless there's some stroke of luck, some way or somehow, to continue that. And that's one of the things that I see as very, very common in agriculture right now is, we talk about the average age of people that are owning or running these farms, or the average age of a California farmer was 56.8 in 2002 and is 60.1 in 2012. And who is going to take over that? Because I can tell you that what is happening right now is the allure of the tech world, the allure of STEM, is drawing people away from opportunities like agriculture or turfgrass. And that's why I think it's so fascinating. DeMay, I think you had the article that was talking about recruiting STEM interested students into turfgrass, because it is very much a STEM career. And I think the same thing, needs to happen with agriculture, because as these people, and I hate to put it so bluntly, die off, this is libraries of data that is also dying with it. Now, out with the old, in with the new also means a new opportunity for moldable and coachable people to come on board to be able to continue on the evolution of agriculture. But it also means a lot of knowledge that's lost as well. And so it will be very interesting and somewhat frightening from time to time to watch how this plays out. And I do recommend everybody go read that article. But the actual one is we got a little Oklahoma State here talking about 2 new turfgrass varieties. DeMay, have you heard anything on the inside about this?
Nothing I can share.
Nothing what?
Nothing I can share publicly, but
okay.
It'll be good. I'll just say that it'll be good.
And I believe that. Oklahoma State is not known for being a bitch ass program. It's a great turf school, great turf program, and now that they've moved into developing Bermuda grass varieties, and look at this, they're saying this will be their 9th and 10th Bermuda grass varieties since 1991, and built with purpose, like Tahoma 31. Which, hey, Ryan, how much experience do you have with Tahoma 31?
A lot.
Exactly. A lot.
And Ryan, what has your experience been with Tahoma 31, quinclorac aside?
Yeah, you got to watch the quinclorac on the hybrid Bermuda grass. That's for sure.
Okay.
Not the common COMMEN Bermuda grass.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because I'm looking at all of these new varieties of Bermuda, and you know what? They are just light years above what I had, because let me tell you what I had as Bermuda varieties, in the 1980s and the 1990s. I had 328. I had Tifdwarf. And I had 419. And you know what? Those grasses, if those were the only Bermudas left on this planet, I tell you what, I wouldn't use them. Seriously. Seriously, I wouldn't use them. I'm sorry. I wouldn't use them. But I'll tell you what changed my mind about Bermuda. Tahoma 31. Tifgrand.
Yeah.
And Celebration. Because you see, I had the world's worst experiences with 419 and 328 and Tifdorf. Okay, I had the worst experiences, and entire state of Hawaii had such a bad experience with Bermuda grass from that genre that there's a reason why if I say Bermuda grass in the state of Hawaii, they want to run me out of town on rails. They want to run me out of town if I say Bermuda here.
That's how I feel when people mention centipede grass. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, yeah, understood. But then the thing is that when I see Tahoma 31 or Tiff Grand, and I've had a chance to maintain a Tiff Grand turf area, I've had a chance to maintain a celebration turf area, and the experience of doing that is nothing like what I had to deal with on the 328 and the 419. Nothing like it. Okay? Nothing like it. I mean, it's just, oh, for example, how's this one? If I'm dealing with Tiff Grand or Celebration, no need for Exteris, no need for Lexicon. The most I've ever had to do to one of those grasses growing in my area is maybe a little bit of light dollar spot control. Light. I mean, I'm talking like low rates of eagle or a little bit of 33, 36, and I'm done. It's nothing strenuous.
No, I mean,
So,
it's good to see that the breeding programs have been so strong, both on the cool and warm season side. And you're seeing it. What you're seeing is that before, and we should do that sometime. Sort of a dive back into improved genetics over time, and sort of a history lesson of grasses that have been well touted and then have failed to live up to expectations. There are many of those. Ray, you probably don't know of this, but the C15 Toronto bentgrass, if you're familiar with that.
I know all about
one.
I heard all about C15 bentgrass because that was the one that in the 1980s that C15 bentgrass had such a problem that the golf courses applied for an exemption to bring back phenylmercuric acetate because phenylmercuric acetate was banned.
Kills everything.
But the golf courses asked for an exemption to be allowed to apply that because that PMA was the only thing that could control the disease that was killing the C15 greens. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep, the old bacterial wilt. So, long story short is that the last several grasses that have come out of Oklahoma State are absolute game changers, and I expect
champs.
That these will
champs. They're champs.
These will be too.
How about our mailbag?
You've got mail.
Indeed, we do. And this one is going to be from Kenneth. And to be honest, I don't know how we're going to answer this in one single short segment here. The message is I came from North Indiana, where I spent 20 years getting a mixed lawn to look good, in my opinion. Moved to north of Knoxville, Tennessee last summer, newer subdivision, and everyone's lawns is weeds. I've done the usual weed and feed over and over, pre and post emergent, some lime, just used some pelletized 2,4-D. Still lots of little yellow flowers and clovers. I did start early last fall seeding, and to late spring, everything starts so early down here. The soil is red and sticky, but not quite clay, pulling my hair out. We also have a CBD hydro farm and lots of land we're clearing for grass. We'll need help figuring it out. There is so much to unpack here, really. I mean, and this is This is the area where I've worked for a long time, and I promise the soil scares everybody. But I can promise you it's not that bad. It's called Rocky Top because it doesn't grow corn very well, but you can grow grass here just fine. It's different. It's significantly different than what you're used to in Indiana, and you can't think of it like growing grass in Indiana. You have to think about it about growing grass in the South, and you're growing cool season grass in the South. So a totally different game plan and approach to what you experience in Indiana. Similar, but significantly different. Second thing I would say is that do not use granular post-emergent weed controls. Stay away from the weed and feeds. Stay away from any kind of granular 2,4-D. The yellow flowers and clovers you're talking about is probably oxalis and or black medic, and that's not going to work on that particular problem anyway. Once you have it here in our lawns, you've got to move up to something containing triclopyr and carfentrazone or fluroxypyr and carfentrazone or sulfentrazone in order to get rid of that. So go ahead.
Or the man needs the ultimate Oktoberfest cocktail
of
quinclorac and triclopyr.
A quinclorac triclopyr application would be a good one as well too.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's and the timing of it is going to be really different than what you're used to as well too. So we don't have snow on the ground here in February. So normally when you see things kicking off would be somewhere around February here. So putting down your pre-emergence in February, as you see these come up, making the appropriate post-emergent weed control applications. 2,4-D is going to be have very limited efficacy here as a singular product because our weed pressure is too high and is significantly different than what you dealt with in Indiana. I doubt in Indiana buttonweed was a major problem for you. Buttonweed down here is like the normal weed that everybody gets when it comes to summer broadleaf weeds. Just like oxalis and black medic are major problems that you have here. You probably didn't see just a ton of it where you were in Indiana. And 2,4-D is not going to help you with either of those weeds. So you're going to have to adjust your approach and move on to some different chemistries there that you probably did not have to utilize when you were in Indiana. And then in the fall, of course, here it's going to be sometime between September and October 15th that you're going to be doing your seeding. So you could push that out a little later here than you were probably accustomed to in Indiana. I would stick to good cultivars of tall fescue. I would not just apply lime because someone told you to. That sounds like some old wives' tales that someone told you to do.
Mm-hmm.
While it's not uncommon to pull a soil test here and find a lawn that has a 5.4 pH, it's also just as common to pull a soil test and see a lawn that has a 6.8 pH. And thinking that lime will do something to that red, sticky soil is really just a pipe dream. You need to base your fertility program based on what the soil test says. And if you do want to go ahead and have one performed by an actual laboratory like Waters Ag or Spectrum Analytics or Ward or Midwest or one of the others, stay away from My Soil and the ion exchange resin. That's not going to provide you any valuable data. Stay away from the one from Home Depot that does it's another ion exchange resin one. I can't remember the name of it. What was the other Home Depot one? It was My Soil and then some other
dog pea soil.
I think
dog pea soil.
Yeah, I think they I think Home Depot contracts with My Soil. If they use the same thing,
Yeah.
I think they contract with My Soil, but in any case, get an actual soil test done. And that's a very good point because regarding lime, just because the soil is red, I would not assume because I have red soil here in my area where the pH is 7.5.
Yeah, and definitely stay away from the Soil Master soil test kit. This is garbage right here.
Yeah, that doesn't
using color coding is not really going to give you the kind of information you need to build a fertilizer plan. So anyway, there's so much here to unpack that there's no way we'd be able to do it in a mailbag. What I would recommend, Kenneth, is Start with a soil test, send that in to us, and even if you want to come on to a Thursday or something, we can build you a program or figure out some way to guide you in such a way to have that done. And I think that's it. That was it for our mailbag. Gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being on the show today. Coming up Thursday, which, hey, summer's here. You know what that means? It means I get to get off early on Thursdays because I get to get my ass early to work on Thursdays because I don't have to take the kids to school anymore. So this Thursday we have a call-in show, and I look forward to it because we are going to raise hell, praise Dale, and do the damn thing. Ray, Ryan,
Dale,
God bless y'all. Raise hell, praise Dale.
He's gone to race in a better place.
God bless Dale Earnhardt. Thank you, gentlemen. We are going to go hang out with the patrons and let them choose the title of this week's episode.